Well, good evening, everyone. Michael Soothing here. I am going to leaf through and discuss this tropical aquarium book as promised in my previous video about aquarium accessories. Yeah, I showed you the cover, but we didn't go through it. Now I have been in the process of setting up and maturing the aquarium, and within the next week I will post a video showing you the unboxing and setup of the aquarium, and then how it progressed later into its final form. I think you'll find it interesting, but meanwhile, let's take a look through this book tonight and see if I followed any of their guidance and advice, what my impressions have been about setting up an aquarium. Alright, hold on, I'm going to do a look down view so you can see all the colorful images. Hold on one moment. Okay, there we go. And if you hear a slight hum in the background, or bubbles, that would be the aquarium, the pump that is forcing air down into the bubble maker. So that would account for that. But anyway, here we are, week by week. Let's see how we did. I don't have tiger barbs or zebra danios in my aquarium because they're too active and aggressive, and I want a mellow, relaxed aquarium, okay? Not one that's hyper and frenzied. That's just me. Introduction. Everybody these days wants a planted aquarium, so that's of course what I did. There are good reasons for the planted aquarium. You introduce oxygen into the water, it gives it some nice cover for the fish, they like it. It creates some food for the algae eaters, and maybe most importantly, the plants help consume the waste. That is the fishy poop. Okay, so that's what you want. It's fertilizer for them. Plants, right? And of course, it's very attractive. Day one, building the system. So I will show you this in a future video coming soon. Unboxing and setting up the heater, the filter motor, pump, all of that stuff, the filter media, the the gravel that you put in the floor of the aquarium, all of that. It's really called these days a substrate, the stuff you put down in the bottom. I used a substrate that has plant nutrients in it, so that is working okay. Not all of my plants are thriving, but that's normal for a planted aquarium. Some make it and some don't. You just have to weed out the ones that don't like your aquarium. Okay, we skipped some week. Oh, this is just the contents. It's giving us an overview. Before you begin, choose a location. It's very important, by the way, that your aquarium be level and that you have a stand that can hold the enormous weight. You know, I have a 32.5 gallon aquarium. I got a stand that's made to hold up to 40 or 50 gallons. There are several hundred pounds of weight in a 32-gallon aquarium, and you need to keep that in mind. You can't have a flimsy stand or a flimsy flooring, and you don't want your aquarium to not be level, because if it's not, it'll put too much pressure on pressure points that are down at the bottom in the corners. Okay? So they talk about selecting the right size and setting it up, first thoughts and decisions. Think about the fish and the conditions. I highly recommend a book like this if you're ever going to do an aquarium, especially if you're not experienced. There's also a lot of good YouTube videos, but those are usually single topic videos, not an overview of the whole process. So this book is probably handier. I would recommend it. It's pretty good. Setting up a tropical aquarium week by week. Buy as big as you can. Yeah, maybe. As long as you have the space. I want you to realize it's going to cost you a lot more than you think. By the time you get done with the aquarium, is just one part of the expense. You've got several types of water conditioner, plant fertilizer, water neutralizers, water testing kits, all of the stuff you're going to put in the aquarium, buying the aquatic plants, buying the fish, etc., etc., buying accessories, thermometer, this, that, tubing, a system to move water out of the aquarium so that you can do a partial water change every week or two. All of that kind of thing. It can add up to quite a bit. Good lighting system. So keep this in mind. Day 1. See, here he's got the level, okay? I knew that already. I used the level and I made sure my stand was good and level. On my aquarium, they ship it with a little foam rubber pad to distribute the weight in the base without creating a sharp pressure point anywhere. Yeah, wipe it down first, on the inside. Make sure it's nice and clean. Adding the substrate. There are many options. You gotta check what you want. Some people will put a layer of nutritional dirt for their plants on the bottom and then cover that with some kind of gravel or sand. Everybody prefers something different. Think about your fish first, the kind you're going to have and what's good for them, and your plants. So there's many options and they show those. Clay balls are loaded with nutrients, providing a targeted extra supply for individual plants. Yeah, there's tablets that you can insert down into the substrate underneath where all your plants are going to go that provides good nutrients. I've done that with some of mine. They go into the pluses and minuses of each type of substrate for the bottom of your aquarium and what you're going to want to do with it. A mixture of substrates provides a more useful planting medium than a single material. I didn't do a multi-layer like they're talking about here. I used a substrate that has a whole bunch of nutrients built in a slurry. So it's both gravel and like this nutrient sludge. They tell you how to use soil if you want to go that route. And by the way, your aquarium is going to look hazy at first, the water, because of the new stuff that's in it. And the ammonia and nitrate bloom you're going to get at first. It's going to take time. So you got to put all the filter together and the motor that runs the pump and etc. etc. I'll kind of show you that in the setup video that you'll see next time. Here's a filter that, see these little white guys? They're called bioballs. Yeah, no bad jokes, okay? Bioballs. And what they do is they're a kind of a growth medium for good bacteria that you want in your filter system. Then you have spongy material to filter out stuff. You have activated carbon, which gets bad metals and things and other contaminants out of the water. Nitrates and nitrites and so forth. And they talk about all the different kind of filters and the bioball things, plastic, ceramic, whatever, glass. Some people, like for planted aquariums, like to get more high tech and use a CO2 gas injection system, which makes the plants grow a lot better. But I didn't want to go high tech, so I didn't go that route. Although I do add a liquid carbon enhancer to the water every couple of days. Plants, by the way, as you know, thrive and live on carbon dioxide. I know you hear it's a greenhouse gas and evil, but in actuality, all the vegetables and fruit and trees and plants thrive on CO2, and in fact, they need it. And our biomass is actually improving in the world in places where we're not burning it down or clear cutting it, like in the Amazon forest. But even there, it's growing back faster because we have a higher CO2 content in this century by a couple hundred parts per million. This talks about how you're going to set all this stuff up. I didn't want to go with carbon dioxide cylinders and injection. It's just too much trouble and expense. You've got to replace the cylinders all the time and all of that. So I don't do that. Preparing and adding wood. I have a big piece of driftwood in the aquarium, but I didn't go through all of this crap. I just stuck it right in there, and that worked fine. But if you really want to be careful, you can go through all these steps to get the tannins out of the wood and things like that. If you've got a natural piece of wood from the beach or something, from a river, it's meant to be that way. You don't need to go through all these exotic baking it to make sure nothing's alive and all that stuff. Okay. Well, I will maybe take a step back from that and say you might want to use a vinegar solution to make sure there's no parasite if it's a piece of wood that's come out of water recently. But if it's dried and on the land, you don't have to worry about that, right? So they talk about how to do aquascaping here, making rosin casts and all kinds of stuff. Of course, I didn't do all this. I did buy a couple things to put in there. I showed you before in another video that I decided not to have those gaudy SpongeBob colorful objects because I wanted the more natural look. Once I got the stuff in place, I realized. Rocks. I have agates and shells that we found at the beach primarily. That's what I have in mind for rock type decor. But they tell you about all the kinds of rocks you can get. Washed coal, that doesn't sound very attractive to me. I don't think I'll put a lump of coal in my aquarium. You know, maybe Santa will do that if I've been naughty, but I'm not going to do it. Again, they talk about all this preparation, and you'll see videos on YouTube. Oh, you can't put quartz in your aquarium because, you know, the trace minerals will leach out and be harmful to the fish. That is an utter crock of nonsense, okay? You can put whatever quartz and things you want in there. You can put variations of quartz, you know, citrine, amethyst, those are quartz variations. All of that is fine. You might want to watch out for super sharp edges because fish could hurt themselves on the edges and get a cut. But barring that, you know, you don't have to go through a big long routine of scrubbing your rocks and on and on and on. You just don't want to put something in that's going to leach off easily. Any kind of hard rock is fine. You know, if you have a sandstone or something, it might start putting some lime into the water or something, but that's not a problem. Day one, still, treating and adding the water. Okay, so I did that. I measured how much was going to go in, and I had a little capful, 5 milliliters of water treatment for each 10 gallons. So I have a 32 gallon. So I put the right amount in and I tested it for chlorine. No chlorine once I treated it. Pretty much immediately, no chlorine, okay? So then you can prepare the tank to be planted. Don't fill it all the way to the top at first, because you're going to be rooting around in there, putting your decor and your plants and everything once you get them. And this goes into how to choose your plants and buy them. You can get them online even. That's what I did. I got my plants online. Chelsea got me a very nice plant, and then I bought a variety pack from a place. I'd tell you the name if I could remember, but I don't remember. So anyway, there's a lot of good advice in here about how to prepare and plant your aquatic plants so that they will thrive. What you should trim and how you should plant. Some plants don't want to be in the substrate. Some types are floating. Some types just want to be anchored to a piece of driftwood or rock. They don't want their roots down in the substrate, but others want to be planted, okay? So it's a good idea to put the tall ones in the back and the shorter ones in the front. You have to make sure that your light can get to all the plants, that they're not, stuck in the shade of your other plants or objects in the aquarium. But you see, they give you lots of good advice on how to do all these various different kinds. I wasn't anal about trying to follow all of this, but I tried a little bit, to see what would work. If your plants start to decay and melt away, the leaves, one of the most important things is you go in and you cut the bad leaves out when you're doing a partial water change, because you don't want the plant to be putting energy into the part that's decaying. You want it to be able to focus. Like I have one of these, for example, and it started off with, when I first got it, it wasn't doing well. Green Cambomba, Carolinia Nana. Anyway, it wasn't doing so well at first. And so I cut off some of the stuff that was brown and decaying. And as I added fertilizer and carbon to the water and got it the proper lighting, it started to thrive. And now it's growing all the way to the top of the aquarium and starting to go along the surface, which I like. I have one of these too, but it's not doing so well. It is still alive though. Bacopa Carolinia Anana. I'm sure I did that wrong. Yeah, there's all these different kinds, and put your big ones in the back, your shorter ones in the front. I have a couple of moss balls, needle Sagittaria. This would be very attractive if you could get it to grow right, or Vallisneria. But for me, it's not so easy. I'm having trouble with these. So I'm hoping I can eventually get them healthy. They're alive, but they're not thriving. On the other hand, I've got a couple of these. My daughter bought me one for Christmas, and I got another one, and they're doing very well. Anubias does well too, and I have some of that. So, yeah. Are those two different kinds? Yeah. So, what was that? Hunger noise? I have a sword plant, and it's doing okay so far. So let's move along and see what else. What else do we have when we get past all the planting? What I did with my aquarium, I should have showed you this really, is I initially put a whole bunch of goldfish in it, small goldfish called feeders, in order to get the biosphere working properly. You have to get the fish waste. Initially you get all these spikes and really bad stuff like ammonia and nitrate. But then the bacteria starts to kick in and multiply by the millions or billions, whatever, in your filter system. And once that gets matured, then you're ready for your actual tropical fish. Goldfish cannot thrive in a tropical aquarium because they like colder water. So once I was ready for my tropicals, I had to take all the goldfish out. And of course there's huge penalties in the state of Oregon and other places for releasing those goldfish into rivers or lakes because they don't want a proliferation of non-indigenous fish. So I had to release them into a small local pond that only I know about, so they would not get into the ecosystems around here. Day 2, on private property, okay, with no outlet, that pond to any bodies of water that connect to the rivers or lakes around here. Lighting, recreating the natural light. I've got an exotic light system that you can set up with an app on your phone. So the system I bought the Fluval Flex comes with one really nice LED light strip built into the hood. But they have an option where you can add a second light strip, and you can move them so that you're lighting both the front and the back of the aquarium. So I went ahead, and this is why I say the expenses add up. So I added a second light strip, and I set it up as they recommend so that the lighting is on for about 10 hours in the front, natural lighting, and 10 hours in the back with some overlap, and then a nighttime for the fish of about 14, about altogether about 13 hours, because there's a little bit of overlap between the front and the back. And I have those set up on an automated cycle with an app on my phone. Works very nicely. And it even creates a moonlight at night in the aquarium. It's like a bluish green. It's really cool. Sometime I'll show it to you, because you can get these lights to do a variety of colors. These LED strip lights they have now, it's so much more advanced than when I did aquariums in the past when I was younger. Here they're going to talk all about water chemistry, how to get your pH correct, and etc. Making your tap water safe for fish. We have chlorine here, so I have to use a dechlorinator. But when I'm testing the water with my testing kit, it's coming out very good on everything. So far, so good. Here they talk about the nitrogen cycle. That's what I was telling you about. It takes a few weeks to get your aquarium up to a point where you've gotten this cycle. I started with the goldfish and relocated them once the water was in proper balance. And you have the bacteria converting everything so that you don't have poisonous spikes in things like ammonia. And this talks about how to do all the testing, and yeah, sounds like a lot of work, doesn't it? At first I thought, what have I gotten myself into? But now that it's at a mature stage, the aquarium, I'm so happy with it. I really love watching it. So it was worth the setup hassle. Definitely. I would do it again in a heartbeat, or even two. Look, dwarf gourami. See that fish there? That's called a dwarf gourami, and I have 2 of those in the aquarium now that it's in its final form. This even tells you, I don't have these shrimps yet, mono shrimps, but I'm gonna get some more. I actually bought some, but they were very small, and my gouramis ate them. Those naughty gouramis, I tell you what. Don't get tiger barbs if you want a mellow tank. This tells you how to acclimate your fish when you first put them in. Now, see, they jumped up to week 3, bringing the aquarium to life. It's not an overnight thing, guys. Don't think you're going to set up a tank and put your tropicals in it the next day. Not going to work. Unless you want to see them all floating belly up on the surface the next day. No, you have to follow these protocols to some degree anyway. It tells you how to tidy up your tank and you know, my strategy, because I'm lazy, I don't want to spend time cleaning algae or algae, depending on whether you're in the UK. I don't want to be cleaning it off the sides of the tank. So I got a couple of Plecostomus, bushy nose Plecostomus, algae eaters. And they're doing a superb job of cleaning up most of the algae. Tells you how to buy your fish, and you put in a few at a time at first, so you don't do a biological overload. They tell you how much you can put into a tank. Most new aquarium enthusiasts want to put too many fish in their tank, okay? And too many varieties. Don't make that mistake. Take your time, pick fish that are going to get along with each other. If you want a very active tank with lots of movement, then you can get things like zebra danios, but they're very fast swimmers, zipping back and forth all over the place. And it's not very relaxing to me, so I chose mellower fish. Same with the barbs. Barbs are very active, and they're also very aggressive. Not so good in a community tank. Okay, a community one being a variety of fish. Week 5, see, they're saying you put a few fish at a time, right? And they talk about quarantining fish when you first get them. This is for people that want to get really advanced. But a good fish store, if you have a good PetSmart or Petco or something, they will quarantine their fish first before selling them to make sure there's no disease. I haven't quarantined any fish here, and they all have done great. No diseases, no problems. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend these barbs unless you want mostly, active fish, very active fish. The same with the rasboras. They're really fast swimming fish that are very busy. What I prefer is the tetras. First of all, this doesn't do it justice. You'll see in my video of the tank set up later how colorful these really are and shiny. They give off this brilliant neon reflection of blue or green or purplish blue, and then they have red beneath. There's cardinals that have red all the way down, and the neons that have just this part red. I have a big group of neons in mine, and they're nice mellow fish. They swim around in a school at a fairly leisurely pace, instead of darting all over the place at high speed. My gouramis tend to be a little bit aggressive, but overall you can see there's so many varieties of easy to keep fish. There's lots of types of tetras. I have some golden tetras, also 4 of them, and then 16 neon tetras. And I have 2 of these dwarf gouramis. Their colors are beautiful. Now, they don't always look quite this brilliantly blue. Mine don't. They're a more muted color. It looks a little more like that, really. But if you look at them from different angles, they do have all these colors. And then I have also an opaline gourami. They call it a 3-spot gourami, which is another variant of the opaline. Got one of those. They're really interesting because they're very curious, and they have a lot of personality. They have these 2 long little feelers in the front. They go all around the aquarium, checking things out. They'll feed a little bit on algae also, so they help with the algae load, keeping it down. Your catfish are your bottom feeders, and I have a couple. I don't have catfish, but I have a couple bottom feeders. I have zebra loaches, which, here's one. There's a zebra loach right there. I have a couple of these, and they do a great job of helping keep the bottom of your tank clean, as do all the catfish species, of course. Coreodorus, also known as cory cat. All different types of cory cats. Dwarf ones, bigger ones. You need a couple of bottom feeders in society. No, I mean in your fish tank. To keep, the excess food and things that didn't get eaten, to clean all that up. Guppies and mollies. Someday I'm going to get some guppies. They come in a wide variety of colors, and they're live-bearing fish, so they'll make little guppy babies in your tank. The problem is they'll all get eaten really fast unless you can, they'll hide in the plants, and some will be able to survive and grow. But if you've got fish like I do, gouramis, you're going to have to try to get a small net and scoop some of those into a little nursery tank or something to grow them bigger, or they'll get eaten. But the platies and the mollies are live-bearing fish that are easy to keep, very colorful, and they like to hang around up towards the surface of the tank. It's nice to have fish that will be spread throughout your tank, right? So you'll have some on the bottom, some like the middle, some like the top. Swordtails and platies, again, live-bearing fish, very colorful. They're mellow. They don't cause problems in a community tank, so they get along with their fellow fish. Because, of course, they went to school for that, right? This tells you now week 8. Where am I on my aquarium now? I'm about week, let's see now. Set up in December. Yeah, so, I guess I'm about at week 8 by now. Towards a stable system. And I'm getting a stable aquarium now. I'm going to get more shrimps, but next time I'm going to buy them as large as I can get them. If I can get some about 1 inch long or so, they won't get eaten. You can put snails in to help keep the algae down, but I don't want to do that because week 8, algae spreads through the tank. Yeah, they tell you about all the different kinds. And that's absolutely true. Loud vehicles should have a banana shoved up their tailpipe, in my humble opinion. My approach to algae is the zebra loaches, and of course the 2 algae eaters. I have fish types that will peck at some of the algae, like the gourami, and I will get some shrimp. They'll eat algae like crazy off of everything. They'll clean it off the plants and everything. They're also great bottom cleanup guys. So that will be in the future. And I also have coming at some point from a mail order fish store a Chinese algae eater. And they tell you now about care and upkeep and keeping your water, I'm not getting really exotic at testing for phosphates and all that stuff. Maybe I could have a better aquarium if I went all out, but I have a testing kit that has these strips that are easy to use that will show you, I think it's 8 different parameters at once. It only takes a second to do it, and I get a couple hundred strips. You really only need to test your water once in a while, so you don't have to get so exotic. Here they're telling you, if you have a bad leaf, just cut it and take it out of there. So week 8, they're telling you how to, when I do a partial water change, I'm vacuuming up gunk off the bottom, fish poo and stuff. I'll show it to you sometime, show you how it works on a future video. Changing your filters and your filter media. Here they're talking about all the various things you gotta do for maintenance. Some of which I'll do, some of which I won't. Disassembling your aquarium filter pump and cleaning it. Fat chance most people are doing that. I'll do it someday, but not every few weeks like they recommend. Refilling, changing water. You gotta take some water out sometimes so that you don't have a buildup of toxins, fish waste, etc., ammonia. So I take about 10 gallons out every week or two, and then put 10 gallons in that I will treat to take the chlorine out. You don't have to treat I have a gallon jug that I use, and you only have to put the 5 milliliter anti-chlorinator in the first gallon, and you pour that in, and then the next 9 you just use your tap water, and your treatment's already in the aquarium by then, so it works fine that way. Different types of tetras. There's many types. I would recommend almost any tetra variety as a good community aquarium fish. They don't get large, so the essential thing to know is you need a good sized school of them. Otherwise they're lonely. Initially I got 6, and do you know what they did? They went down to the bottom and just kind of stayed there all hunkered down, scared. And so I started to read up on tetras, and what I read said you need a group of at least 12 to make them feel comfortable. And sure enough, so of course I overdid it and made it a group of 21, but as soon as I did that, all the tetras were happy. Now they're all swimming around, all pleased and happy and content, no longer afraid of their own shadow. Some people like to keep cichlids, and they're great fish for aquariums, but you need a big aquarium usually for these guys. Like big, I'm talking at least 50 to 100 gallon, because they get large. And also you can't have small fish with them, because they're going to eat the small fish. There are some smaller varieties, dwarf cichlids. So there are some that could be kept in a community tank, but you've got to make sure they're compatible with the other fish. I really like angelfish. They're very interesting. I've had them in the past 30 years ago when I had my last aquarium. And I liked having them, but the problem is they can be aggressive with certain other types of fish. So they're not so great community dwellers unless you have other bigger fish with them. And the problem I have is in my tank I have a beta with long flowing fins, and angelfish tend to nip at betas and harass them. Bristlenose and Nycteris. I have something almost like that. Two that are almost like that. Upside down catfish. Glass cats are interesting, but you can hardly see them because they're transparent. That's why they're called glass catfish. Dwarf Autocanilus. See, there's so many different things that you can get. Horseface loach. How would you like to be born a horseface loach? I don't think I'd like to be born with that name or that body. Would you? Rainbow fish. Very few aquarium fish come from Australia, but rainbow fish are the exception. We're still in week 8 here, figuring out what fish we can add to our tank. Right? I'm hoping you'll be asleep by now. Okay, here's the betta that I was telling you about. Mine looks kind of like this. It's more blue though. They come in a variety of colors. It's called a Siamese fighting fish. Beta splendens, or betta splendens. The problem with bettas, they're great in a community tank. They're very colorful. They have a lot of personality. I've already trained mine to come over to me when I tap gently on the glass, whereas the other fish don't. But you can only keep one in your tank. They're called a fighting fish for a reason. If you put two males together, they will fight to the death, harass each other. So you don't want two in one tank. Just keep one, and that works great. All about how you feed them. I have a variety of fish food. I have dry flake food, dried tubifex worm, dried brine shrimp, and I give them a variety of each. But I'm going to get a kit to hatch my own live brine shrimp to supplement their food with some live food, because they love that. And I have no pet store close to me on the Oregon coast where I can get live fish food. So I'm going to have to grow my own. Well, they show the freeze-dried. I have this kind of stuff. You just kind of crumble it. And you can get a vacation feeder so that you're able to go on vacation. You wouldn't want to be stuck not being able to go on vacation because you have to feed your fish, right? So you can get an auto feeder, and I got one. See, there's the expense again. I'm not using it yet, but when I go on vacation, I will someday use the automatic feeder. It'll dump a little bit in there according to a program a couple times each day. The fish really only need to eat once or twice a day. Any more than that, and you're just creating more fish poo and doing nothing to help your fish, because that's all they need. Oh, I hear the rain starting up again. It's been raining pretty much nonstop. The finished display. They've got some tetra. I don't know what kind this guy is. They got some zebra danios there swimming around. I have a black background also. It really shows off the color of the fish. You know, I think you're way better off having a black background than having it just clear against a wall or something, because that's kind of ugly and it doesn't showcase the colors of your plants and your fish, whereas the black background does. Week 12. This is just the beginning. Well, for me it's the beginning, the middle, and the final, because I'm not going to add more aquariums to my life, but some people in the hobby end up getting more and more and more until they've got 3 aquariums in the living room and 2 in the bedroom and 1 in the kitchen, and you know, that's a little too much work for me. So, potential fish health issues. There's a fungus among us. Don't get that. Hopefully my fish will stay healthy. They're all very healthy now. The aquarium is very healthy. Routine maintenance. Clean the internal filter, including the impeller and the casing. Every 4 to 6 weeks? No, I'm afraid not. I won't be cleaning the motor. It's sunk down into this chamber. Very hard to get in and out. I will clean the pump motor that's submerged down inside the filter box. I'll clean that every maybe 6 months. But I will clean the filter media at least once a month and put new activated charcoal in, that kind of thing. Every 6 to 12 months, what are they saying? Oh, checking all of your parts and everything, whatever. Yeah. It tells about how you can create new plants from cuttings. I'm going to figure out how to do that, because I would like to propagate that plant that looks kind of like this, actually, and it's growing up really nicely on one side of the aquarium. I want it to grow in the back. The more plant life you have in there, the easier your maintenance will be, because they eat up all the bad stuff. The plants use it as fertilizer. So anyway, I hope that this video relaxed you, and I hope that you will have a good evening, a good sleep. Please give this a thumbs up, and subscribe and click on the bell. Check out Joanne's channel too, Scorpio and YT, if you like mukbang videos. She'll be back here soon making some of those videos, and maybe collaborating with me on a couple of videos too. So I look forward to that. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.